The silence began on a Tuesday, not the peaceful kind, not that gentle quiet that exists when two people are simply lost in thought. This silence had weight, thick and heavy, like the air before a thunderstorm. I noticed at the moment I came home from work, dropped my keys on the counter, and heard nothing. No, hey, babe. No sound of dinner sizzling on the stove. Just a faint hum of the refrigerator and the distant traffic drifting through the window. Emily? I called out, scanning the living room. She was on the couch, scrolling through her phone, one leg tucked underneath her. When she heard my voice, she didn't even glance up. Hey! I said again, softer this time. Still nothing. I told myself maybe she'd had a rough day. Her boss had a way of talking down to people, and she often came home fuming about it. But even when she was upset, she never ignored me. Everything okay? I asked. She gave a tiny shrug, eyes still glued to her screen. That was the beginning. By day 3, the silence wasn't confusing anymore. It was intentional. There's a difference between someone avoiding you and someone punishing you. I could see it in the way she walked past me without making eye contact, how she'd answer with short nods or half gestures instead of words. The worst part was I didn't even know what I'd done. I replayed the last week like a detective reviewing evidence. I'd forgotten to take out the trash on Monday. I'd been late picking her up from yoga once. But none of that explained this emotional frost. When I tried breaking the tension, she folded her arms and muttered, "You wouldn't get it." That one stung, because Emily and I had always been that couple, the kind who talked through everything, even the hard stuff. When we first got married, she used to say communication was her love language. Turns out that love language came with selective translation. It took another week before I understood what she wanted. We were sitting at breakfast, me eating in silence, her pretending to check emails. Out of nowhere, she sighed dramatically. "You know," she said, "if we had that beach house in Myrtle, I'd probably be in a better mood." I froze mid-bite. Beach house. She gave me a sly smile, the kind that didn't reach her eyes. "Yeah, you said you wanted to invest, right? I think we should do it. A vacation home. Something for us." I laughed. "Emily, we can't just buy a beach house. You know how tight things are. The mortgage, your car loan." Her face hardened. "So that's a no?" "It's not a no," I said carefully. "It's a not right now." Didn't matter. She pushed her chair back, stood up, and said flatly, "You'll never get it." Then she walked away. And just like that, the silence came back, colder than before. Weeks went by like that. I'd talk, she wouldn't. I'd ask questions. She'd stare straight through me. Living with her felt like living with a ghost, one that still occupied the same bed. Then even that changed. She started staying late at work. "Meetings," she'd say. "Team dinners." Her phone was always in her hand, face down, locked tight. I told myself not to overthink it, but the more I tried, the more uneasy I felt. One night, I couldn't sleep. Her side of the bed was empty. I checked the clock. 12:47 a.m. called her. Straight to voicemail. I waited until 2, then 3:15. When she finally came home, I pretended to be asleep, but I heard the quiet laugh under her breath and smelled a faint trace of cologne that wasn't mine. That's when something inside me shifted. I didn't yell. I didn't demand an explanation. I started watching. The next week, I told her I'd be working late. Instead, I parked across from her office, a cup of coffee in hand, pretending to scroll my phone. At 6:40, she walked out, and her boss, Ryan, followed right behind. They laughed together, that kind of laugh people share when they shouldn't. Then he placed his hand on her back, guiding her toward his car. Not hers. My fingers clenched around the steering wheel, so hard my knuckles went white. My chest felt hollow, like the air had been sucked out of me. I followed just long enough to see them pull into a dimly lit restaurant on the edge of town. A table for 2 by the window. Candles flickering. No team dinner. No meeting. When she reached across the table and brushed his hand, my heart didn't just break. It collapsed. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't. I went home instead, sat on the couch, and stared at our wedding photo. Her in that simple white dress, smiling like forever actually meant something. What happened to that Emily? When did silence become her weapon? When did I stop being her partner and start being her obstacle? The next morning, she kissed me on the cheek before work. "See you tonight," she said sweetly. I almost laughed. The performance was flawless. That's when I knew this wasn't a slip-up. It was a choice. Over the next few days, I gathered everything I needed: phone records, screenshots from our shared cloud, photos of her car parked outside Ryan's condo. It wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity. Proof that I wasn't losing my mind. Proof that the silence wasn't confusion. It was camouflage. Once I had everything, I went to see a lawyer. "Mr. Paris," she said, flipping through the file. "You got ground for divorce, and a very favorable one. I'm not after her money. I told her. I just want peace." The lawyer smiled. "Then you'll have it." 2 weeks later, I handed Emily an envelope at breakfast. "What's this?" she asked. "Something you've been asking for," I said. She opened it. Her face went pale when she saw the word divorce at the top. "What is this? Some kind of joke?" "No joke," I said evenly. "You wanted control. You wanted to win by shutting me out. Well, congratulations. You won silence, permanent silence." She scoffed, but her voice trembled. "You're being ridiculous. We can work through this." "Work through what?" I asked. "The silence? The lies? Or the nights you spent with your boss pretending you were still at work?" Her eyes widened, panic flickering behind them. "You followed me?" "I didn't need to," I said quietly. "You made it easy." For a long moment, she just stared at me. Then the tears came, the apologies, the pleading. But it was too late. Moving out felt surreal. I packed my clothes, my books, a few framed photos. The house felt bare without her. No candles, no blankets, no scent of her perfume. And yet, I didn't feel empty. I felt clear. The silence that once suffocated me now felt like freedom. That night, I slept on a mattress on the floor of my new apartment. No wife, no arguments, no games, just quiet, real quiet. For the first time in months, I woke up without that knot in my chest. Months later, I heard from a friend that Emily had quit her job after Ryan's wife found out. He'd moved on, same story as before. She tried reaching out, long texts about regret, about how she didn't realize what she had until it was gone. I never replied. There was nothing left to say. She thought silence gave her power, that if she froze me out long enough, I'd break, buy her things, chase her affection. But all she did was teach me something I'll never forget. Silence isn't power. Sometimes it's the sound of a relationship dying. And once it dies, no amount of words can bring it back. It's been a year since the divorce. I still catch myself wondering how it all fell apart. How two people who once shared everything ended up as strangers locked in an emotional chess match. But then I remember that morning at breakfast, the look on her face when she realized her silence had finally spoken too loud. And I smile, because she was right about one thing. Silence is powerful, just not in the way she thought. Hers destroyed a marriage. Mine rebuilt a man.